What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Just Hoop Talk with Justin Henry. And today I got my man Johnny VTV on the screen with me. Johnny, what's going on with you?
Gambling Guinea, baby. How you doing? I missed you.
Man, it's been a minute, man. But obviously some things in the NBA have changed. The cards keep getting stacked on top of each other, man. Let's get into this Brooklyn Nets saga. Like, what is going on with these guys, man? I know you're out there on the East Coast, man. What are your thoughts on this team just stacking the deck, bro? It's even before we get into all that. This NBA stuff is crazy, bro. Just like the way these guys are teaming up. You in for this or no? Like, is that your thing?
No, I'm not in for this at all. Bro, it's not fun. Like, I was a Miami Heat fan for a long time because of D Wade. And then when LeBron joined, like, he had to go join a super team. Like, dude, this is, to me, is the same thing. Like, I don't like it. Blake Griffin gets like he was never anything. Joins the Nets. Now, Lamarcus Aldridge gets dumped. He joins the Nets. The funny part is, though, because, like, you got guys like Joe Harris that are still just absolutely eating this year. And so, like, ESPN and everybody's leaving him off their like top five. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he doesn't count.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. It's not fun for me. It's like literally playing 2K and turning and allowing trades. Like any trade you want. Like you can't reject any trade. You could just start trading whoever you want. It's pretty much like that. Like, dude, it's not fun, man. Like I don't for this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you get to build your own team. It would just be like hey, let's go back and find everybody that was good 5 years ago and just put them on one team to see if they still got it. All the people that were outcast. And this is worse, bro. Like, I mean, we grew up watching the Lakers obviously had a stacked team. The Boston Celtics in like late, 2010 had a stacked team. But this is getting insane, bro. Like, you're talking Blake Griffin, Lamarcus Aldridge, three of the top probably 10 players at least in the league. You're talking Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. It's like, what's the point, man? What's the point of this league? But the crazy thing is, if we're really talking, like, we can continue on this in a little bit, but I still don't think they win it all. Am I crazy to think that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, bro. I didn't change my stance from last time I was on with you guys. I mean, I still think we're gonna win it. Listen, bro. This is like Build-A-Bear, but for NBA teams. So we're building. It's like build an NBA roster instead of Build-A-Bear. I just, at the end of the day, who do we think is the East? The East is, for however long it's been around, been the easier conference of the two for at least the last 12 years. I mean, listen, Miami Heat made a couple moves. They're always sneaky. If they end up, they're in a dogfight right now with the Pacers. Even the Bulls are sneaking in. So if the Heat can get in, they'll make some noise. You got the Atlanta Hawks that are low-key tough. They got John Collins, who's been just heating up.
Yeah.
I mean, but the end of the day,
you think even like you got the Bucks still there, right? At the top of the conference. The Celtics are like struggling a little bit this year, but they're always a contender. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So you got the East that's starting to get stacked up. And I think that's that LeBron effect. He left the East. So now all the teams are like, okay, we got a fighting chance since he was in the finals for 9-10 straight years. But when you think about it, like the East is so stacked that the Nets are still going to have to play like three tough games no matter who they play, because if they get stuck with a Boston there at the end, or they get stuck with the Pacers even as a second game, like that's not easy.
What did I say last time? In the NBA, unlike any other league, when it comes to the NBA playoffs, stars win games.
Yeah.
Do you remember those years over the last, like in the 2010s, when the Hawks had a couple real good teams, but they didn't have that one star. They didn't have that one closer, that one guy you're going to in crunch time. They just had a good roster of good players, but it didn't get it done because you need a star in the NBA when it comes playoff time. And guess what? The Nets got three of the best in the league. You have two killers, and then you have one just savant. KD, Kyrie are two killers. They're closers. Harden probably could be, but he's more of just like a savant. He really is. I mean, and then plus you got the new role supporting players who happen to be Blake Griffin, Lamarcus Aldridge, Joe Harris and company. Like,
man, it's crazy because like you said, even like the Joe Harris, you talk about DeAndre Jordan. They got Nick Claxton there in the back. Jeff Green is not even a bad NBA player. He comes off the bench. Bruce Brown is like an up-and-coming star. So you're talking like the Nets are at least 10 deep. And in the front court, when you got Blake Griffin, you got KD, you got Nick Claxton, you over here eating pickles and stuff right now, man. What are you doing?
Well,
You got the pickles and White Claw, the signature staple. I love it. I love it. When you're talking that front court, man, it's like it's a whole nother deal because now you look at the East, which is kind of weak when it comes to bigs, and now this team is just loaded in the front. And that was the Achilles heel of this Nets team was although you had Kyrie, you had James Harden, you had KD, there was no bigs, and now you're starting to add. You add a Blake Griffin, you add a Lamarcus Aldridge. To me, it's like those guys are bigs, but they don't even necessarily play that big. So I think it helps them in the East, but overall, when you get matched up against like a Denver or even a Utah who has a Gobert, you got Denver with Jokic. Like that's going to be a tough matchup for those guys because honestly, Lamarcus Aldridge ain't guarding either of those guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's true, but
like who's going to guard AD?
Listen, there's more than one way to skin a cat, though. I mean. You don't have to predominantly play with the bigs. I mean, we've seen a lot of teams that could win without bigs. It's just the game has changed so much. I mean, you get these bigger guys like a Durant type of body that's 6'10", 6'11", but can shoot from outside. They shoot lights out. Look at Jokic. He's all of a sudden out of nowhere. He's in the last like 3 weeks. He's swung and is the overwhelming MVP favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's averaging pretty much 28 points, 11 boards, and like 8 assists. I mean, I was looking at it earlier. Like Joel Embiid is averaging more points and rebounds per game, but like the assists is a big disparity there. But then again, like the Sixers are the number 1 seed, where Denver's what, the 5 seed, the 4 seed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the West. We talk about how tough the West is, and also in the East. The Sixers, obviously Joel Embiid got hurt. It's like LeBron got hurt. So some of those other candidates for MVP. But when you look at Jokic's overall body of work, like dude is an elite defender when it comes to steals. He's an elite passer. He runs that entire offense. And you're right, we are seeing a change of the guard. No pun intended when it comes to these centers. Now they are playing like guards. You're seeing a lot more of these guys bringing the ball up the floor. We've kind of seen that over the last 10 years where now, that Dirk era where these guys are becoming more shooting guard, point forward-esque. I mean, you got Zion is bringing the ball up the floor now. Luka's bringing the ball up the floor now. 6'8", 250 guys just coming down there. And, when you talk about Joker being damn near, I think he is 7 foot, running point guard, like, to me, that's crazy. Averaging almost a triple-double. Like, those are Westbrook numbers, man.
You know what's funny, dude? It's just we're talking. Like, the game has changed so much in probably the last, 10 to 15 years, right? The 2010s were just a completely different animal. In the 2000s, you had a few of those guys, like the Kobe's that could do it all. Like, even the Allen Iversons, those guys could do it all. But now the new generation, I don't know what the hell they're putting in the water. These kids growing up, like you said, they're 6'8", 250, bringing the ball up. They're able to rebound underneath. They're able to play defense on the perimeter. They're able to shoot from outside. They have a great layup package. It just doesn't make sense, like what they're doing. The game has just shifted in a direction that you're getting these younger guys coming into the league that can literally do it all. So they're not confined to one position anymore. Like, okay, you're 6'9", 260, but you're not just going to be a 4. You could bring the ball up too. You could run plays from the top of the key. You could shoot from the perimeter. But guess what? If we need you to go underneath and we need you to start doing some Hakeem Olajuwons, posting up some, you can do that too. The entire dynamic of the NBA has changed dramatically. And even in the last years, you're getting, and it's not going to stop. You're going to keep getting more and more of these guys. I mean, look at Luka Garza. Like, the kid was a savage for Iowa. Now, who knows what he's going to come into the league and be? And, you still get some of these guys that are reminiscent of 20 years ago, but at the end of the day, it's more leaning towards just a new wave of these guys, like a Luka Doncic.
And it's like the guards are even playing bigger now too. Like when you're talking Westbrook averaging 10 rebounds a game, you see a lot of low post stuff from Kyrie, who's 6'2", but he's on there posting up, hitting fadeaways like Kobe. Some of these guards, even like Chris Paul averages, I want to say 5-6 boards a game. It's not the same NBA as it was, and the position fluidity actually makes. I mean, to your point, when it comes to the Nets, like it does make them a tough team because now these guys can switch on everything. So when you got Kyrie Harden, KD, LaMarcus, and Blake Griffin all on the floor at the same time. Now you have an all-star team that can literally switch every position. They all can hit jumpers. They all can rebound. They all can play the post. They all can shoot threes. It makes for a tough out. I'm not sure it's enough when you got teams that have that, but with a 7-footer. You know what I mean? Like when you got AD, when you got Jokic in the West, I'm just not sure that that's going to work long term when all these guys are about 6'11". Even KD might be the tallest player on that team.
Listen, all right. Let's talk about this. The East. Who can't all that matters is getting into the dance. That's it. You just get into the tournament. That's right. And it becomes a matchup game. You don't have to be able to beat every team. You just have to beat the team. So if you're the Brooklyn Nets looking at it, because they've been a top 3 favorite from coming into the season because of great stacking with KD, Kyrie, guys that were hurt the last couple of years, but they're like, you know what, we're going to build for the next few years, right?
Yeah.
Who are the Nets not beating in the East? Let's not talk about the West right now. Let's talk about the East.
Okay.
To the finals. Who are they not beating, in your opinion?
I think it's a matter of in a 7-game series, it always comes down to star power. We talked about that. Obviously, it comes down to who can make the shot that's needed, who can get the stop that's needed. I only see 2 teams right now in the East that really have the star power and the shot makers and the stoppers to do that, and that's the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't even think the Sixers have that right now with Simmons. They have the firepower, but they're built more for the regular season, in my opinion. When you got Embiid down there, you got Simmons. They have the defenders. I think they can play with the Nets, but in the 7 games, I'm taking Harden. I'm just taking the star power over what the Sixers have. When you talk Milwaukee Bucks, the reason why they're different is because they have the wing defenders. So you got Drew Holiday, you got Giannis, like elite defenders when it comes to it, and that's what you need. You need elite defenders. And the Miami Heat as well. We're talking, you got Oladipo now on there. You got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. Like these are elite teams, and they're deep too. The Sixers obviously are well coached. I think they would struggle though in the 7-game series. I still would take the Nets over all 3 of those teams. But it's tough because I think now that there is a big 4. You talk about the Bucks, you talk about the Heat, and now you talk about the Sixers too. Like there is a big 4 when it comes to the East, and I think any of those teams could legit win the 7-game. I would just expect Brooklyn to win it.
I mean, of course, I got to think that Brooklyn's the favorite as they've been. Listen, I love what the Miami Heat did. Obviously, they surprised a lot of teams. Like I don't know how you want to count last year's regular season with. I don't know how you want to count last year's regular season with, the whole bubble thing and just kind of threw everybody off. But at the end of the day, the Miami Heat were still in the NBA Finals. They still had a pretty good team. And the way it looks, they only got better. Victor Oladipo, I love that move. He comes back to Miami. He's a great player. And he's a guy that you can really rely on coming down the stretch to go along with some of the star power they have, like a Tyler Hero, like a Jimmy B. Like they are a team that could absolutely contend with Brooklyn. It wouldn't surprise me to see them beat the Nets in a 7-game series. The Bucks, I don't know what it is, man. There's something missing from the Bucks. They are very good. Like Greek Freak has gotten way better every year. I met him back when I was in college, one of my senior year, 2015.
Did he look the same as he did back then?
No. I had a picture, but when I had my picture with him from the summer of 2015. But when I got a new phone, the pictures didn't transfer over. Dude, he was a nice kid. But bro, at the time, he had to be. If I was 22, he had to be about 19 or 20. And he was tall, very tall, and he started to put on a little bit of stock. But nothing compared to now. So like seeing this kid every year for the past 5-6 years, he's just gotten physically more mature and he's just put on a great body, and his body of work, his has gone up exponentially, and to be one of the best players in the league. But that's enough. Just the one guy, like you said, they got Drew Holiday. You know,
that's his problem. His problem is that he's developed physically. So Giannis, I mean, he came in obviously like a wire with the long hands, but he doesn't
he's
have an
huge,
outside
bro.
game. That's
He's
the problem I
huge.
think with Philly is that Philly can't compete with the Nets when it comes to shooting. They tried to address it, getting Seth Curry and Tobias Harris has been unleashed, but that's their problem. It's the same problem the Bucks will run into too. The only thing I think with the Bucks this year is that they added Drew Holiday. So last year it was just Giannis and Chris Middleton that were competing against the likes of these teams. Now they added a Drew Holiday who can also be the defender and additional scorer, which to me does put them over, at least competitively, they're able to be more competitive than the Sixers, right? So the Bucks, you're right about them though. Like Giannis has a limit, but he's trying to unless you're putting KD on him the whole game, nobody's stopping Giannis for a 7-game series. Like they don't have just an elite defender that can just stick.
Dude, he could score 40. Like, you know what I'm saying? He could go 40, 15, and 10, but that still could not be enough. Like,
no, that was last year. Last year, you add Drew Holiday, you add Chris Middleton. Like I'm saying when you add a piece like Drew Holiday, now it's like you have that additional score. They damn near have a big three of their own.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, like at the end of the day, here's why it's just, I don't know. I think the only team that could beat them just because the way they play is probably the Heat, and that's still a stretch. Dude, forget all the other additions that they got. KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. KD is arguably the best player in the NBA when fully healthy. Kyrie is one of the best point guards. Kyrie is a killer, bro. Like when they won that championship over Golden State, sorry to the LeBron haters. If it wasn't for Kyrie, they're not winning that series. Kyrie was the killer, the closer on that team, not LeBron.
I don't know, man.
James Harden. Listen, bro. I know how you feel. I know how you feel, but I'm saying how I feel. Listen, and I think James Harden is easily one of the best players in the NBA as well. So you're telling me you have, let's call conservatively, 2 of the 5 best players in the league, and you have one of the top 10, top 15 NBA players with Kyrie Irving on your roster, and you're not going to win. Then the addition of Blake Griffin, Lamarcus Aldridge, you got DeAndre Jordan coming off the bench, and you got Harris, who's been sneaky all season, lighting it up. I mean, I just don't see it. Like, the only team I could see out of the East beating them is Miami, and that's a stretch. They're going to have to come hit them with everything they got.
Yeah.
And, like, the Nets on a couple off nights.
Well, because they got the defense to match. Miami has the defense at least to be able to match up, and they have a lot of long guys. They have added Trevor Ariza with Iggy still there, Jimmy Butler, Bam. Like, they have the length to keep up, and Victor Oladipo is an underrated defender when he's on. But when you switch over, you start talking about the Western Conference now, that's kind of where this thing starts to get scary to me. Like, for the Nets, at least you add all these pieces, but the West teams are so deep. Like, you're going to have to go through a Utah Jazz. You're going to have to go through a Phoenix Suns in order to get Clippers, a Lakers, a Denver Nuggets. Like, one of those teams you're going to have to get through just to get in to the finals, probably 2 of those teams. And so when you're looking at the winner, whether it's one of those 5 teams that I just mentioned, like, that's a lot of talent to go through, and all of them have a good big. All of those teams have a good big.
For the Nets?
If you're the Nets, you're looking at the Western Conference.
You got to get through one of them. You got to get through.
You got to get through one, but they're battle tested now.
Okay, so
battle tested.
All right, yeah, no, that listen, that's a fair point. Listen, the West is loaded, dude. Always. That's always been the MO. But listen, let's call it what it is. The West is not loaded like it was 5-6 years ago.
I don't know. The 8 seed right now is like a 500 team.
I know, but I mean, I'm not talking about record. I'm talking about pure talent. You had 10 teams. You had 10, like 5-6 years ago, you had 10 teams in the West that were legit playoff teams.
Bro, I'm gonna splash you with one. The Knicks are a playoff team right now in the East. That's how you know that the East ain't
disgusting to me. That's disgusting to me. Listen, bro, like having think like you're a father, so think about this. Let's say you have like 10 or 11 kids and you could only send 8 to college. But all 11 were good enough to get into a really good school. You could only send 8 though. That's what the West is like. What I mean, dude, it's always been the better of the conferences. But listen, I love what the Phoenix Suns are doing. Devin Booker, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised the Kardashian Jenner curse didn't hit him yet. So hopefully that dude's savage. Hopefully he stays up.
Dude, that thing, it holds no prisoners. Put it that way.
It doesn't, man. It doesn't. But like, listen, the Suns with D Book, like, dude, we talked about it last time I was on the show. He's another young guy that you saw the potential and the talent early on, and it's great to see a guy like him who just kept working and kept building up. And now he is realizing that potential, has become one of the best players in the league.
Do you think that Suns team, though, because you talk about the Suns, you talk about the Jazz, like those are the teams that nobody's like they're performing well this year. I think they're the number 1 and 2 seeds, but nobody's really expecting them to go to the NBA Finals. Everybody's expecting Clippers, Lakers. Like they're not expecting those 2 teams to get in. Do you think that they can get in and actually compete with them?
All right, listen, let's talk about this. We always say this. The Clippers, dude, they always put out a great roster, but they choke when it comes time to make the big plays. The Clippers always have a great team, but just cannot deliver. So I'm not worried about the Clippers because the Clippers are not getting in. If they do, good for them. I'd love to see it. I mean, they got some real firepower on that team. But you know what? I don't know, dude. I don't see it. The Lakers, obviously, they've been playing, handicapped for a while.
Right.
The Jazz, I like. They've been the best team in the NBA all season. The Jazz and the Suns, for all my bettors out there, they're the best teams against the spread, if you're inclined to go that way. But, I mean, at the end of the day, do we see these teams are they going to be the ones to be in the finals versus the East, which is, in my opinion, going to be the Nets? Like, I don't know. Like,
I only see 2 teams really coming out the West, like battle tested coming out the West. I really only think it's the 2 teams we saw in the Western Conference Finals last year. And one of the more it's not underrated. I think that people know the value of what just happened. The Denver Nuggets getting Aaron Gordon, to me, was a really, really nice move for them because now, to me, that elevates them as probably the number 2 team in the West if the Lakers get Drummond, which we can speak on in just a second. But Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets, now it gives him an additional defender, which people do not give Aaron Gordon enough credit as far as being a defender. Somebody who can make plays, get 15 a game if they really needed to. They add that now to Jamal Murray and Jokic, not to mention the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. This team is really deep now. You start to look at this team, they were competing really last year in the bubble with just Jamal Murray and Jokic having a triple-double, Jamal dropping 40. Now you add Michael Porter averaging about 18 to 20 points a game. You add Aaron Gordon, who can be an elite defender and switch off on now with KD, a Harden, a LeBron James, some of those wing players in the Western Conference. And, dude, to me, they look like a team. They already were a team that figured, okay, they're going to be contending for that finals. They look like a team now. I don't really see a lot of teams in the West beating them. You match them up against the Clippers, and to me, the Clippers get smashed. You line them up against the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz are getting smashed to me. Like, there's not a lot of teams I think are beating that Denver Nuggets team.
Listen, I could see it be like a Lakers Nuggets Western Conference Finals, but at the end of the day, dude, listen, I know you hate to hear it, but the NBA knows who already is going to the finals. They already know. If they can control it, it's going to be the Lakers. The Lakers, I mean, they don't have AD. They don't have LeBron. They've been battling injuries. Not a big deal because, dude, as long as you just got to make the dance, dude. That's it. It's NBA even like the NFL where home seeding is so critical. It's not. It doesn't matter in basketball. It doesn't. The Lakers are going to be in the finals, and it's probably going to be versus the Nets. Like, dude, the NBA has they have an agenda. I hate to tell you, bro, they have an agenda. They want LeBron to be in it. They want him to be in it. They want him to keep winning. They want him to prove that he can go to the West, even though it's not the same West, neither here nor there. But it's going to end up being the Lakers and the Nets. If I had to put a prediction out, I would say it's going to be the Lakers against the Nuggets. And I would probably think it might be the Nets versus the Bucks in the East. The Nets versus the Heat, I would say. That's what I think, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd be surprised if it wasn't the Lakers Nets. Teams don't really come out of nowhere in the NBA and win. It's not that.
I agree. And I think the Lakers will be there. When you look at them, I think no matter who's in the West, when you got LeBron, not just for the entertainment aspect of the NBA, but I also think that the talent-wise, you're talking about the greatest player to ever play a game, arguably, depending on who you're talking to, second best player, third best, whoever you're talking to. One of the top players to ever play with AD, who is, rising. I think he's still like 28 years old, man. He's just entering his prime. And then I think the key to this team, they have to add, and I don't think this player is even that great, but they have to add Andre Drummond in order to make the run that they're going to. This team isn't as good as they were last season. I think they were better when they had Rondo. Huh?
Solidify the roster.
You got to. And because this team, they're not as deep. When you lose Rondo, you lose a Dwight Howard, you lost some important pieces that this team had last year, and you got smaller too. So they need to add the size. And I don't think Drummond's even that great of a player. I think he's all numbers. But when you add him to that team, now it gives you another quote unquote star power that you can have. When really all you need is LeBron and AD at this point to compete. Like you said, once you get in the dance to compete, you just need those two.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, the Lakers obviously have a great team, but it's what it comes down to, man. It's all about stars in the playoffs.
All right, so betting. When it comes to betting, right now I think the Nets are plus 270 and the Lakers are plus 350 to win the NBA Finals. Who are you taking? Like, if you had to say, okay, I'm putting my money down on Brooklyn to win $275, or I could put it down. I think the Nuggets are like plus 700. To win it all.
Dude,
who are you putting your money on? Like, are you looking for the odds? Are you looking for just the favorite?
In terms of betting, yes, you want to pick the team that you think is going to win, and that's obviously the prime goal. So if that's who you really think is going to win, like I really do think the Nets are going to win. I at least think they're going to make it out of the East. And if they make it that far, then you could hedge if you decided to come time. But there's no value there. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I'm looking at a futures bet, I always try to look for the best value. So if the Nuggets are plus 700, great. The thing is with the NBA, though, it's like I said, it's different than any other sport. The NBA, quite frankly, is the worst with this. I feel like they already know who they're going to pick, so I feel like it's a sucker's bet to go anywhere else. I mean, unless something drastic happens, like where LeBron or AD, knock wood, like go down for the rest of the year. Like I don't think I see the Nuggets getting past them because I just don't think the NBA is going to allow it. I think it's going to end up being the Lakers and the Nets. It's not like I said, it's not like football. It's not even like baseball. The key to betting with futures is always trying to find the best value you can. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be anybody other than the Nets. I really don't. Like if I was going to pick an NBA Finals, I would think it's going to be the Nets and the Lakers, and there's not much value there. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
You're going to put $100 to win 220 on the Nets to win it. Like I'd rather just wait until they got there and then, put more money down and risk more to win more. You know what I mean? Like at this point, I don't listen. I would throw $100 on the Nuggets to get there just to throw $100 and take a shot in case something happened because they are capable. They are capable.
Wow.
The finals.
It's wild with the betting because when you bring the betting in, like you said, when you have the favorites in there, the favorites they don't pay out, but it's always some dark horse that ends up getting there and making things interesting, like last year's Miami Heat. It's like, even though the storyline, like either the Lakers are for sure coming out of the West or the Nets are for sure coming out of the East. I'm not sure that both of them actually come out. Like, I think that one of them is, I think everybody wants the ideal matchup, but it reminds me of when everybody wanted to see Kobe and LeBron come out and somehow Dwight Howard ended up in the finals. Like, it feels like one of those teams is going to slip out and we're not going to get the heavyweight matchup that we wanted to see. But because the league is so deep, the East has 4 teams, I think, that could get in, and the West has 5 teams that could get in. If one of them happened to sneak in there, I still don't think the fans would be mad.
Let me tell you something. For those people looking for value off FanDuel, because they just updated it, we're looking for a value pick to win it all. The Miami Heat are plus 3,000.
No way.
They're on the. Listen, hang on. They're on the board. Well, this is what goes into futures betting. This is what I look at. I look at everything. The Miami Heat make great additions. They were in the finals last year with the worst team that they have this year, right? I mean, of course, the settings were a little different in the bubble, whatever. But they're on the verge. They're right on the cusp of the playoffs for the Eastern Conference. Now they make some moves where they get a guy like Victor Oladipo, who we just agreed that's a great pickup. All you have to do is get into the dance, right? So if there's one team like we talked about that we mentioned, I think it could be the Miami Heat are the team, if there is one in the East, to beat the Nets. I think the Nets are the team to beat in the East. But I could see a Miami Heat dethroning them because they are very, very underrated. And they are well-rounded, and they have what it takes to knock off a Nets team if there was a team to have that in this conference.
That's a hard. Well, they have the obviously they have the organization. The Heat organization, man, is one of the top-notch organizations in the league and well respected by everybody in NBA circles. And obviously they made a run that was kind of unexpected last season to get to the finals. It's just you don't creep up on teams twice. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Toronto Raptors didn't really creep up on anybody last year like they did the year before, even though Kawhi left. They didn't creep up. Denver kind of creeped up on everybody last year, and I'm not sure they do again this season. But there's always a team that kind of just creeps out of nowhere, and I'm not sure that the Heat can duplicate it. I get it, though. I get for the value, though, because at plus 3,000, you're not just throwing in 100 to win 100. That makes sense. Like, you're not just, I know the Nets are going to win, so I'm going to win $100. If you want to take a gamble, what are some of the other teams down there, like around that 1,000 to 2,000 range that you're looking at? Because obviously, I like the Denver Nuggets. I think that they have a chance.
Dude, the Nuggets
anybody else?
Yeah, well, the Nuggets are great because actually on FanDuel, so depending on what book you're looking at, it's gonna change the odds. The Nuggets, now that I see their value, dude, plus 2,400 is.
Send it.
That'd
be my pick.
Well, so yeah, in terms of the West, it goes the Lakers at plus 300, the Clippers at plus 550, the Jazz at plus 850, and the Nuggets at plus 2,400. So
the Nets, man, that might be worth 100.
The Nuggets, the Nuggets would be worth $100 just if you're looking to change it up. If you think somebody else is going to come out of nowhere. I wouldn't hate that because I really do think that they have a roster that can compete with anybody in the West. I think they could have what it takes to beat the Lakers. And quite frankly, like, let's call it what it is. Every team is gunning to beat the Lakers in that conference. Right. They're not the Clippers. Like, the Clippers are a good team, like we talk about. They always have a good roster, but they're never going to get it done. They're like my Falcons, dude. They have a loser aura hanging over that franchise that they can't push through.
You got Paul George in clutch time hitting off the glass, bro. To me, that was just writing on the wall for
listen, man. It's just there's something about this Clippers team, and like when they had Doc Rivers, he's a great coach, and there was just something even he couldn't push through it. They had Chris Paul, I don't know why there's something about this team that they cannot get through. They close down shop. They close up shop in the biggest of moments. It just doesn't make sense. They are so good, dude. They could go out and win 50 games every year, and I still don't think that they're there yet. It's gonna take like an absolute Matrix type of revolution for them to break through, and then me to believe in them.
And they're in a 7-game series. They're not beating any of those other top 4 teams in a 7-game series. They barely beat the Mavs last year with Luka. And they were up 3-1 and didn't beat the Nuggets last year without the emergence of Michael Porter and with the addition of Aaron Gordon. Like, all that stuff wasn't there last year. All the teams got better. And I don't really think that the Clippers did. They just added Ibaka instead of having Montrezl Harrell. To me, I don't think that they're part of the finals conversation. I do want to touch on that plus 24 for the Nuggets, though. Mm-hmm. The Nuggets matching up against the Nets. Do you think, in your opinion, do you see that as a match that actually could happen? And if it did happen, Nuggets and Nets, do you think that the Nuggets would beat the Nets in a 7-game series? Like, 90% of the time the Nets would win, 50% of the time the Nets would win. Like, what would be your percentage on that? Because I think that the Nuggets match up really good against the Nets.
Yeah, listen, sports is always about matchups, right? That's always the big thing. Like, sports matchups is the big thing. Could it happen? Yes. I think the Nets would probably take it 7 out of 10 times. I think the Nets 60 to 70% of the time, I would say the Nets have it. But that's not to say that 30 or 40% couldn't fall in the NBA Finals if they were to meet each other. Listen, with the value, it's always, like I said, it's always about value. The Nuggets at plus 2,400 and the Heat at plus 3,000. To me, if our viewers out here need to get away from the Nets, the Lakers, the Clippers, Jazz. They want to pick some value. you're picking one team of value in each conference. It's the Nuggets at plus 2,400 and it's the Heat at plus 3,000. The payouts are going to be very nice and they have a realistic chance of happening. At the end of the day, let's recap it for the 1,000th time. Stars are the definitive factor in the postseason. They get it done off time. And both of these teams have star power, have guys you can go to. Guess what, dude? Jimmy B for Miami is an absolute stud. I love me some Jimmy B. Tyler Hero, he looks real good. Like, dude, honestly, I wasn't sold on him, but I guess he's just – I mean, Jack Harlow put out a goddamn song about him. So the Nuggets, Jokic is like running away with the MVP right now. Like Jamal Murray's getting dome in the bubble last year or on Instagram Live, whatever. Like, dude, what a legend. I mean, at the end of the day, it just looks like these two are the teams that could make noise against Goliath and Goliath, which is the Lakers and the Nets.
But honestly, hey, I'm not putting any money on the Nets because you never know if KD is going to be tweeting about it before the game. You never know if Kyrie's going to go on a hiatus and just go on a Sage tour and just start doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Harden, you don't know if he's going to gain 50 pounds one day and lose it the next, man. Who knows when it comes to this Nets team, bro? But, hey, man, love talking shop with you, man. We got to get on again before playoff time starts. We need to see you more often, man. What's up?
Dude, I'm about it, bro. I'm about it. I want to be on with you more. I miss you. We're missing. Well, I'm the third wheel. We're missing the second wheel.
We're missing Will, man. He has baby duties, man. That's what happens when you are a dad, a father. Things change, and
not happening to me. I'm living the single bachelor life forever, bro. I'm gonna be
sitting there drinking White Claws and pickles in Miami for the foreseeable future, right?
For sure, bro. For sure.
All right, my man. Johnny. Yes, sir. Take it easy, my man.
All right, man. Take it easy, bro. Good talk.
Yes, sir. It's been another episode of Just Hoop Talk. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the channel. Just Hoop Talk, another edition of the books. We're out.